Hi, everybody. Welcome in to CBS News 24/7. I'm Reed Cowan. Come on a walk with me. These monitors behind me are bringing you real stories in real time. We're bringing you breaking news from Washington and Wisconsin in the race to the White House. And we'll take you out west for wildfires. Then over to Mexico for a peek at the hurricane hitting right now. Punch your ticket on a Friday and ride the video feeds with me. I'm Reed Cowan. This is CBS News 24/7. Let's go. Video is king in this broadcast, so let's do it right now off the top. The video takes us to Biden and the Badger State and a campaign rally in Madison, Wisconsin. The president fighting there to gain momentum, and he knows time is of the essence. Today, the number of people calling for a Biden bow-out grows. Now, we also know that the president is going to be going before cameras to talk to a reporter in a national broadcast, so there's much to talk about today. Congressional correspondent Scott McFarland will join me live in just a minute with whether that Wisconsin appearance and that expected national television appearance will be a win for Joe Biden, who needs some wind at his back. But first, a hurricane hitting Mexico as I speak. Look at this. Winds whipping. They are damaging there. We're also met with torrential rainfall and a dangerous storm surge. Jessica is joining us now to talk about how strong Beryl is as it hits Mexico.
Absolutely. And within the past 12 hours, this is footage coming out of Mexico. Just put yourself in their shoes. Right now, storm surge is a big concern for us on top of those gusty winds that are still whipping their way into the Yucatán Peninsula as we speak. Now, the tropics have been active. This storm has hit many communities, areas through Jamaica, stretching all the way over into St. Vincent and Grenada just 3 days ago. And we continue to keep a close eye on this storm as it's about to re-enter the Gulf of Mexico and then move its way closer to Texas, impacting American communities right around the corner as we head into early next week. So let's dive into that forecast right now, taking a look at where it's at and where the track is going to take it as we head into current conditions. It's sitting at 85 miles per hour just at the center as it sweeps its way just north of Tulum and Cancun. As it re-enters the Gulf, this is the big concern. Sea surface temperatures are still warm out there. That's fuel for this hurricane as it gains strength potentially within the next 24 hours all the way into early next week. Now that track takes it slowly up into the tip of Texas, areas like Brownsville, Corpus Christi, where we were just dealing with hurricane activity recently, just within the past week. We're going to see a similar trend as we head into the coming days. Now, storm surge continues to be a concern for us, around 1 to 3 feet in areas like Chetumal all the way up into Tulum and Cancun. And then as it re-enters the Gulf, that's where we're going to keep a very close eye. The National Hurricane Center keeping a close eye on it as well, as it potentially could regain strength at a Category 1 just before it hits landfall again into mainland Mexico. We'll have more on that in a bit, but for now, over to you, Reed.
All right, and we know so many people travel down to Cancun and Tulum and other parts of Mexico for the July 4th holiday, and we just got this video from our wall of video monitors out of Mexico. You are looking at a bird's eye view of Cancun. Not only what you see, but listen, you hear that storm surge right there? That's how powerful those waves are right there coming into the beach, driven by such strong winds from the hurricane. Now we want to give you a live picture down on the ground. This is Tulum, Mexico, from the Casa Malca Hotel. And once again, the people who are visiting that area told to stay off the beach and out of the water. Why? It can be deadly. Not far from right where you are looking live is CBS News correspondent Dave Malkoff. Dave, we know that your signal is breaking up here and there because of the force of that hurricane. But to really set the stage, this is usually a time of year when people pack the beaches of Tulum. What does it look like right now?
Reed, we were in the direct path of Hurricane Beryl, and you can see it's still windy a little bit here at a shelter that we were put in for this resort here. About 600 people were in the shelter. We actually had the hurricane come right over us. We are 6.2 miles from where it made landfall. And I want to point you over to this right here on the wall. This is some damage, and this was not damaged when we first got here. This is a brand new convention center here at this hotel. You can see pieces of the side of the hotel that are broken, but that's about the only damage that we see here. We do see some downed trees over here. There's about 600 people out here, and we're going to just walk inside just for a second. Okay, that door doesn't work. So it's just a little easier to walk inside because we can get a better signal for you when we can show you exactly. There we go. We got the door open there. We can show you exactly what's going on here. And remember, Reed, this is just one hotel out of so many that are here in Tulum and Cozumel and also in Cancun that are probably doing the same thing, taking people and moving them to the area where they can have more of a comfortable way to ride this storm out instead of being at the airport or somewhere where you just don't have the kind of food and facilities you have like right here.
Wow. And you kind of get a sense why people wanted to leave. Yesterday, we talked about so many people lining up at airports trying to get out. We're glad that they have at least the lights on there at that resort. Dave Malkoff, thank you so much for walking us through that. You see the broken tiles there on the outside. It usually takes a chisel to take those off. It took a hurricane to do that. Dave, thank you so much. Stay safe there, my friend. So let's show Jamaica, because that might be our best look at what Mexico could look like in some parts in the next 24 hours. I just got this video out of St. Catherine Parish in Jamaica. This is a look at video of the debris and the cleanup. What you're seeing right there is them trying to clear that centuries-old flat bridge that was just swallowed by the river during the storm surge. You can see they've got the big equipment out. That's a plus in the wind column. But we also know that the reality is infrastructure damage throughout Jamaica. Some roads are knocked out. We're told water and sewer in some parts of Jamaica not working, and electricity is out in many parts. So what does that mean? It's going to be tough for people who are there, the guests who chose to just stay and hunker down. This is what a first walk through the resort of Montego Bay looked like at sunup. You see trees down, you see the awnings down there. Keep in mind, during that hurricane, those awnings were projectiles that could have been deadly. In fact, the man who sent us this video says it's bad inside the buildings too, kind of like what you just saw with Dave Malkoff. A lot of plaster, a lot of floors and walls ripped up because they had to stand guard over the people on the inside from the force of that hurricane. And, you know, people are starting to come out of hiding from the hurricane in many areas. I've got this video out of Grand Cayman Islands. That's what it's like to get out on the roads for the first time after a hurricane. This is the street near Georgetown, and this is what you see, muddy roads. Why are they muddy? Well, because very near the water, and that storm surge just pushed that sand and the debris up right up onto the roads. And so right now the effort is to clear those roads so that they are safe for tourists and people who normally, outside of hurricane season, would be walking in paradise there on the sidewalks bordering the ocean there. All right, so from that ground view in Grand Cayman to the view from overhead over Curacao, Grenada's prime minister saying the country will rebuild stronger, but we are also understanding that a great percentage of the homes and businesses in that area all sustained some sort of damage. We also understand some of these homes that have been standing for decades are destroyed now. So Beryl is barreling through Mexico, and Texas knows that it's next. That's where you find CBS News' Janet Shamlian. She's live in the Lone Star State, South Padre Island area. Okay, so you all know you are queued up in this hurricane. How are people preparing there on the beach?
Hi, Reed. Well, right now they're enjoying a holiday weekend, and actually the forecast for the next couple of days is great. So you can see families here that have been planning. This is a destination in Texas, South Padre Island. People were really enjoying the weather. We did have some shark attacks we can talk about here yesterday, but there is concern about what's coming. We know that the timeline shows us a Monday morning landfall somewhere, Mexico, Texas border, potentially here at South Padre Island. What are they doing? They are handing out sandbags. There's a voluntary evacuation for an RV park close to here. So far, people seem destined to sort of enjoy the rest of their weekend, but officials have plans in place now to further extend warnings and cautions, and we're hearing anecdotally that people are at grocery stores stocking up, Reed.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned shark attacks. Tell me a little bit more about that.
4 incidents on the 4th of July just here on this beach. 2 people were bitten, 1 was grazed by a shark, and a 4th was injured fighting off a shark. Authorities believe they were all the same shark, but wow, with only 15 attacks by sharks in the U.S. this year, that's a huge portion for South Padre Island on the 4th of July. And this place was just packed with beachgoers. Now, authorities are saying they believe the shark has moved out of the area, went to more open water, and that it was 1 shark. But you can sense a bit of caution here, especially as I've been talking to parents who are with their children, and they're not letting them go out very far because there's that concern if what happened yesterday could potentially happen again, Reed.
Yeah, not good. Okay, Janet, thank you for an update as people get ready to prepare for a hurricane making landfall and kids braving the water despite news of a shark attack. So let's jump the map to California. You see a lot of water there. California wishes they had some of that. Firefighters have flames in their face and Fahrenheit all around them. It's hot in California. Fires burning all across the state. In fact, look at this image here. Let's bring it to life for you. This is the website that millions of Californians check every hour. CAL FIRE's website is what you're looking at. They're showing every active fire burning in California, north to south. You see those flame icons? That is something that just causes so many in California by the thousands to have their stomachs sink. One of the worst fires, let's talk about it. It's the Thompson Fire north of Sacramento. But as Elise Preston reports, there is another fire now in another part of the state that's now in competition for the title of baddest blaze. Take it away.
Deputies in Mariposa County are going door to door, alerting people there of the fast-moving French fire. The fire left thousands in Central California without power, and patients at a local hospital have been ordered to shelter in place. More than 150 miles north, crews are gaining ground in their battle against the Thompson Fire in Oroville.
The areas that are the most concerned and need the most work are some of those more remote areas of the fire.
17 structures were consumed by the flames, and at least 8 firefighters suffered from heat-related injuries. The fire is around 30% contained as temperatures hover in the triple digits. Locals are seeking refuge at a bar now serving as a makeshift shelter.
Even though we're not open for business, it's always been our business to make sure that we serve the community here.
In Oregon, as temperatures climb, so does the urge to help.
We're not going to stand on the sidelines when factors exist that put vulnerable residents at risk.
This weekend, Portland is expecting record high temperatures over the 100s, 20 degrees above normal.
I've watched over the years, the last couple of years, about 10, 15 people die from the heat out here.
Carl Rhimes has been navigating homelessness for years and says cooling centers like this one are life-saving.
I guarantee you, if you check back in a couple of weeks, like we got this heat wave, they're going to have a lot of people dying out there.
Back here in Oroville, nearly 3,800 acres are charred from flames. Intense heat and dry conditions are expected to stick around through the next week. Elise Preston, CBS News, Oroville, California.
And that intense heat is what we're talking about today. Over 113 million Americans are battling extreme heat all throughout the states. That's about 35% of our population. And as we head into the coming days, this heat wave that's sticking around out in California, stretching all the way down into the south too. Areas like Miami, well above average this time of year, as well as the Carolinas. That's the concern for us as we wrap up this holiday weekend and head into our upcoming week. Daytime highs today near Albuquerque sitting in the 90s. We have triple digits all the way over into areas like Texas as these two major heat domes you can see right behind me. One sits directly over the south, one sits directly over the southwest, and we're continuing to keep a close eye on this extreme heat heading into the coming days as many Americans are going to be traveling home right around the corner. So let's take a look at this. Flipping the page from our Friday forecast all the way into our Saturday, areas like the Central Valley throughout California are sitting about 20 degrees above average for this time of year. What an inconvenience when it comes to the timing for many Americans, like I said, traveling right now. Now, looking at the next 6 to 10 days, this is issued by the Climate Prediction Center right behind me, we'll continue to see these above normal temperatures really stick around. So keep that in mind. There's plenty of local community centers to cool down and take advantage of widespread throughout the states. Centers like Texas all the way over into Louisiana are finally going to catch some breaks after that extreme heat is moving itself away. Now we have low pressure centering just in the middle of the states, and that's going to keep us below average in communities like Arkansas and Oklahoma, while the rest of us throughout the west coast to the east coast are still battling that extreme heat. It's the big talk of the town. I mean, it's summer, you know.
Millions of Americans in the grasp of something. Yeah. Just drive a little bit and you'll have a changing scene. Jessica, thank you so much. Coast to coast and streaming worldwide, you're watching CBS News 24/7. We're back with a change in political winds when we come back. We fire up our live cameras to get you front and center at President Joe Biden's Wisconsin campaign rally. So this is what you see going on. The president will be speaking a little later today, but people already getting a seat to be front and center. President Joe Biden knows the headlines are saying time is of the essence. He has got to reclaim the win, so to speak. The president will also be going on national television tonight, so all eyes on President Joe Biden trying to beat back so many people now. In fact, a growing chorus saying it's time to step aside for new leadership. We will continue watching this one. We'll bring you back to Wisconsin here in just a minute. But I want to get us all right now to New York and a story that makes the case again for why drunk driving is deadly. Here's your headline. 3 dead, 6 injured. A suspected drunk driver plowed into people celebrating the 4th of July with their families. Our CBS partners in New York on air all morning about this, and let's listen into their coverage of this deadly crash.
Right now at noon, we start with that tragic crash that's happening on the Lower East Side. 3 people are killed when an alleged drunk driver slams into a crowd celebrating the 4th of July. CBS News' Dave Carlin is on the scene where a makeshift memorial is growing. Dave?
Cindy, and about an hour ago, the pickup truck was towed, and while that was happening, in this area behind me that I'm going to show you, that was taken into evidence while several of the victims' relatives were here, and despite intense grief, they did talk to us about the sudden, unthinkable loss. The last thing 38-year-old Herman Pinckney and his 59-year-old mom, Lucille, ever did was celebrate the 4th of July together in a park near their Lower East Side home. At least 1 other person was killed and 6 others injured when a suspected drunk driver crashed into a gathering at Corlear's Hook Park, where there is this memorial for the victims. Grieving, talking to us briefly about his loss was Diamond Pinckney. Killed in the crash, his mother and a brother who was his best friend.
Herman, I love you. I'm going to do you proud.
Other relatives of the mother and son watched the towing of the pickup truck and spoke to CBS 2.
Just about, you know who they were. Like my cousin, he was happy, he was outgoing, he was funny. He was surrounded by a lot of his friends all the time. And my aunt, she loved her sons. They were really close, and she worked hard to take care of her children, and it's just a shock.
This woman is identified as Herman's girlfriend, walking with a cane, her face bruised, crying. She repeatedly asked why. The crash was just before 9 Thursday night, leaving 4 of the 9 victims trapped under the pickup truck. Investigators say its driver was allegedly speeding down Water Street, then ran through a stop sign at the intersection of Water and Cherry, driving up onto sidewalk and into the crowd. The driver, identified as 44-year-old Daniel Hayden of Monmouth Junction, New Jersey, has been charged with driving under the influence and operating a vehicle without a license. According to court documents in Wisconsin, that driver was arrested back in 2015 for driving under the influence, pleaded guilty to a traffic offense in that case, and in that case, the charges were dropped. Live on the Lower East Side, Dave Carlin, CBS 2 News.
All right, from New York to Philly right now, and word of a deadly shooting last night, a drive-by mass shooting. 1 person dead, 8 others injured. This was in Southwest Philly. Reports say someone in a car just pulled up, popped off into the crowd. Many of the victims are teenagers. We're asking about a motive, but police so far are not talking. This morning, while a family plans a funeral and others gather at hospitals all around that area for the wounded, police have a manhunt on their hands. We'll watch this one closely, and we'll come back in this broadcast and other broadcasts as police give us updates. We're coast to coast and worldwide. We also have our eye on the UK this morning and a landslide election that shakes up how government runs across the pond. Labour leader Keir Starmer becomes the new prime minister, with the party gaining an incredible 412 out of 650 seats in Parliament. That's a sweep, folks. Brits angry about their economy and other problems. And listen to this. We just got this in, our first listen into what the new prime minister has to say about going forward.
This wound, this lack of trust, can only be healed by actions, not words. I know that. But we can make a start today with the simple acknowledgement that public service is a privilege, and that your government should treat every single person in this country with respect.
That's the sound of cleaning house, folks, and sets the stage for who will now meet King Charles many, many times and form a new government. Ahead, more on what many in the UK can really have hope for, and that's a major turnaround. Coast to coast and proving it there, streaming worldwide. You're watching CBS News 24/7. I'll be back in a few minutes. We've got our live cameras pointed at what is going to be a Biden rally in Wisconsin. If you think about this day like baseball for Joe Biden, this is first base. He's going to round those bases and have a national conversation on network television a little later in the day. And this evening, Americans will get to gauge whether Joe Biden, after a terrible debate performance, hit a home run. So once again, watching Wisconsin, where Joe Biden, this is first base, he'll be talking to supporters there that are lining up. All right, so now we are going to talk about what is going on for Joe Biden. Not far from there, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That, if you don't know him, is California Governor Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom pounding his hands together in support of Joe Biden. Gavin Newsom was one of many governors who made the trip, left their state. In fact, in Newsom's case, left his state during fires to go and meet at the White House with Joe Biden. And he came out of that meeting with full-throated support for Joe Biden, says he has faith in Joe Biden. So there he is, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, sleeves rolled up. Gavin Newsom, the man that some people say is waiting in the wings for an eventual presidential run. We're watching his on the stump moves for President Joe Biden today. Okay, so let's talk about things that unite us now. All right, America. It's a mission as much as it is a message for us at CBS. You know, every day we do our level best to focus on you and your communities coming together to create solutions. Today, we take you to Topeka, Kansas, and Janet Shamlian with the story of what is working in America's evolving immigration story. Watch.
When Angelika Chernitska and her mother Larissa left war-torn Ukraine earlier this year,
what did you learn today?
They never expected Topeka, Kansas would quickly feel like home.
I was overwhelmed. That is how I could just describe my feelings.
That's because the people of this Midwestern city have created a modern-day welcome wagon.
What's it like getting a family settled here?
It's very rewarding to see the children strive in school. They not afraid of sirens.
Yana Ross, who emigrated from Ukraine herself, started the volunteer group Top City Promise. The nonprofit helps new immigrants, mostly Ukrainians so far, with almost all expenses for 3 months, including a place to live.
What was it like to walk into an apartment the day after you arrived in Topeka? Fully furnished, food in the refrigerator.
I was overwhelmed.
What's unique is how the group has partnered with the community to make sure it's more than a roof over their heads. A Church of the Latter-day Saints welcomes the newcomers to pick up free food. A Catholic church stores donations that furnish the homes.
Capes Gora, right?
And the Topeka School District has gone as far as hiring what it calls a director of cultural innovation.
They come here and they shop basically for what they need.
Pilar Mejia helps ease the transition for children.
We need to strengthen our community from the ground up, and it starts with the children. And so we need to make sure that everybody feels like they're important, they are seen, they are welcomed.
Topeka schools now have an international flair.
Cities, lakes.
In the district of almost 13,000, Ukrainian and Spanish are the most common languages after English. More than 200 refugees have benefited from the program, and the helping hand extends to all nationalities.
I love it.
You seem happy.
Yeah, yes, very happy. It's different, my life here.
Lisbeth Amador came from Nicaragua with her husband and 6-year-old daughter. The couple has jobs, a car, and a good school for Surrey. The cost of welcoming a family can range from $300 to $10,000, depending on needs. Top City Promise relies on fundraising and the big hearts of the people who call Topeka home.
Why do they choose Topeka over other cities?
Community is what makes Topeka different because of the desire of Topeka community to help them to be successful.
A life-changing approach, a culture of wanting to help that's transformed just surviving into thriving. For Eye on America, Janet Shamley, Topeka, Kansas.
That's where it starts, wanting to help. Coast to coast and streaming worldwide, we thank you for watching CBS News 24/7. I'm back with more breaking news in just a few minutes. A national conversation about Joe Biden and his race to the White House, and leading that conversation right now, looking live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who met at the White House with a lot of other governors to hear Joe Biden after a terrible debate performance, and came out of that meeting saying, I'll go out on the campaign trail for you. I'll stump for votes for you. But this also raises the prominence, raises the profile of Gavin Newsom, who has said in many circles that he is waiting in the wings for a potential presidential run at one point, maybe in the next 5-10 years. So we're watching Gavin Newsom closely right now. Keep in mind, Gavin Newsom, his state is on fire. His state is under triple-digit heat warnings, and he's choosing to campaign for the president of the United States. Fascinating times right now. But now to President Biden on the campaign trail in Wisconsin. We are watching live as Biden supporters get ready, get their seats for what will be Joe Biden stepping before the podium and trying to bring his campaign back on the rails. And by the way, before he left Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, our CBS reporters got a chance to put some microphones in the president's face, get some questions asked, many of the questions we anticipate you would like answers to. Here's a listen to that just a moment ago.
President, are you ready for today? Mr. President, is it time for you to drop out of the race? Mr. President, do you want to talk about your message in Wisconsin? Can you still beat Trump?
So he got a lot of questions out. He only answered one. Can you still beat Trump? The answer, very clear, yes. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarland joins us live now from Madison, where, Scott, we understand tonight the nation will get a chance to watch Joe Biden answer some pretty tough questions.
Just a pivotal 24 hours for the president. He has that network TV interview that airs in prime time tonight, and he has this rally in a must-win swing state in a Democratic stronghold here in Wisconsin. We're at a middle school gym in Madison, Wisconsin, about 3 or 4 miles from the state capitol. The president speaks here mid-afternoon, but he's entered this uniquely fragile, if not unprecedented political moment where his every move, his every word is going to be studied, scrutinized, watched, listened to. That's quite a tightrope to walk politically when every grain of your political movements are watched by the nation. That's what's about to face President Biden as he speaks to the nation and as he speaks to his supporters here in Madison. What does he say? Does he slip with his words? What does he not say? Does he avoid slips with his words? We just haven't seen this level of performative scrutiny out of a politician in recent memory.
Scott McFarland live in Madison, Wisconsin. We await your live reports from that very crucial state, friendly to Joe Biden as it is throughout the afternoon and evening on all of our CBS platforms. And, you know, something those at this Wisconsin rally will hear a lot about today, Joe Biden's support for a woman's right to choose. Now, this is news that just broke this morning. 2 anti-abortion laws in Kansas got the boot. The highest court in Kansas causing women to cheer there, striking down state laws regulating abortion providers more strictly than other healthcare professionals, and a ban on a common second trimester procedure. So what's the effect of all of this? This reaffirms Kansas's stance that that state constitution there protects abortion access. Let's ride our video feeds right now across the pond to some big news developing from the United Kingdom. A new government to form after a landslide election sweeps the Labour Party into power after 14 years of what has been sort of a roller coaster of Conservative Party dominance. That means whoever wins the presidency in the United States will have a new partner and a new ally as prime minister. That person across the pond is Keir Starmer. Joining us now is BBC political correspondent Rob Watson. Okay, Rob, that's the question I have. We know what the political makeup is here with Biden and Trump. How will this play out given what happens with our elections. How well will this new prime minister work with American leadership?
It's a question that we've been asking all day, depending, of course, on the outcome of your election in November. I mean, I think that, you know, the answer is that the relationship between our two countries is so important. It really trumps, forgive the little pun there, whoever is in the White House. It just transcends that because the relationship is so close. And I don't think the fact that we have Sir Keir Starmer now from Labour instead of Rishi Sunak, Conservative, will really make a whole lot of difference.
All right, live in London for us right now, the London Eye, moving slow, but your political winds moving fast. Thank you so much for that live report, Rob. Okay, so we have elections to talk about in Iran as well after a low voter turnout there. In fact, Iran doing it again in a runoff election. So we're watching, because of that, this very closely. Results for the next race are expected to be announced Saturday morning, 3:30 Eastern time. Once again, the United States facing many issues in that part of the world, and Iran is key. Going into the weekend, we're also watching closely the results of work between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Biden to try to get hostages out of Hamas's hands and home with their families. A rocky environment for this goal to become reality. So let's really set the scene here. There's fighting that's pretty intense on Israel's northern border. Hezbollah is firing revenge rockets into Israel after Israel killed one of their senior commanders. And tension over Israeli plans for thousands of new homes and settlements in the occupied West Bank really amplifies all of this. We continue to watch that situation between Joe Biden and President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as we go throughout this afternoon. Coast to coast and streaming worldwide, we've got our cameras on much breaking news throughout the world. I'll be back in just a minute. All right, so watching our video monitors and our live cameras, they're taking us now to the Middle East and the very latest out of Israel. CBS News' Holly Williams live in Israel right now. Holly, we understand there's an Israeli delegation going to Qatar. Tell us what the significance and the timing of this is.
Hey there, Reid. There's been a kind of swell of optimism ever since Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu approved sending a delegation to previously stalled ceasefire talks. Look, we've been here many times before, but I think what's significant this time around is that U.S. officials are sounding remarkably upbeat. One senior U.S. official said that the Hamas response to the existing ceasefire proposal that came just on Wednesday, quote, may provide the basis for closing the deal. The other thing that's different this time around from previous negotiations is that we know more about the existing ceasefire proposal that's on the table because President Biden made so much of it public back in May. That ceasefire proposal is a three-stage plan. Under the framework, female, elderly and wounded hostages would be released first, while Israeli troops would pull out of populated areas in Gaza. The second phase would see the release of the remaining living hostages, and Israeli forces would withdraw from the Gaza Strip. Look, we don't know if any of this is going to come to fruition, but just a reminder of what's at stake here. There are thought to be around 120 hostages still held captive inside the Gaza Strip, and the death toll in Gaza is now more than 38,000, according to the Hamas-run health ministry.
High hopes for those talks in Qatar. Holly, thank you so much for that live report. Be well and be safe. Let's get back to one of our big weather stories happening right now. This is new video out of Mexico that we just got. Hurricane Beryl barreling to make landfall in Mexico. Meteorologist Jessica Birch watching the track.
And putting ourselves in their shoes right now, this imagery, like I said, just coming out within the past 12 hours, this is what they're battling. Storm surge right now on top of those really intense winds as that hurricane just cusps the tip of the Yucatán Peninsula. Now, as we head into the next coming hours, we're going to watch this hurricane continue to make its way back into the Gulf of Mexico, still gaining some strength potentially as those sea surfaces are really warm for this time of year. We're not used to this warm of weather, or at least sea surface temperatures down in the Atlantic during this time, and that's exactly what we're battling with right now. So let's dive into where it's currently at. Let's talk about the track. It's sitting at a Category 1 right now. You can see right behind me, it's just to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula. So that imagery you just saw, well, that was from Cancun, Tulum area, where those heavy winds are still impacting those communities right now. To add to that, let's talk about hurricanes in general. What decays it? What gains strength? Well, when it comes to landfall, wind shear, and of course just that sea surface temperature cooling down, that's what will help decay this hurricane. However, this system right here is about to re-enter the Gulf of Mexico. So watch what happens as we follow the track within the next 24 hours. It re-enters. We still see it just sitting around 65 miles per hour at the center level, and then it continues to gain some strength as it hits warmer sea surface temperatures right before it tracks its way all the way up into Texas, heading into our Sunday forecast. So this is leading up into the rest of this weekend into early next week. The big concern for us right now has to do with storm surge just near Mexico in areas, like I said, Cancun and Tulum. Close to around 1 to 3 feet of storm surge is expected right now, and then that storm will continue to move its way to the north. Areas like Texas and New Mexico, that's going to be our concern when it comes to heavy rainfall right around the corner into next week. Reed?
Keeping us informed, information is power and sometimes life-saving. Jessica, thank you. From hurricane weather to red-hot temperatures and wildfires in California. Viewers, this is more video from the Thompson Fire north of Sacramento. Look at this. Thousands under evacuation orders. Some have lost their homes. Thousands more without electricity right now, and that means no air conditioning in the heat. Triple-digit temperatures in many places. In fact, we're just getting word the most vulnerable at a hospital in the vicinity of this fire are being ordered to just hunker down and shelter in place. That heat also, by the way, has proven deadly in California.
Now, I've watched over the years, the last couple of years, about 10, 15 people die from the heat out here. If you check back in a couple of weeks, like we got this heat wave, they're going to have a lot of people dying out there.
Well, with the severity of the fires and the high temperatures, it's really challenged not only for people, but for pets as well. We got this video of animal shelters and other places where pets are bearing down in the heat.
So I'm very aware of the stresses that people go through when you have disaster. And it's my heart, as well as the heart of our community and our entire staff, to comfort people in those moments.
Yeah, that's the spirit of America. You hear her use that word community. In fact, thousands of Californians and their pets still can't go home. A lot of them are struggling to find help and to find safety, but communities are stepping forward to do whatever they can to help out. Further south, the fast-moving French fire is now lit up. It's now forcing people out of their homes as well. To sort of give you an idea of where this is, it's north of a place called Mariposa, the central California town, known by many for being kind of a stopping point on the way to Yosemite National Park. This fire has already burned hundreds of acres, and we understand it is not contained as well. Jess, you see that smoke rising from the ground there. You know the embers are hot, and you have to feel for firefighters in the heat that have to wear this heavy equipment.
Absolutely. On top of the fact that there's red flag warnings with those fire weather conditions still sticking around in states like California, they're also dealing with extreme heat. Now, over 35% of Americans right now, that's 113 million people, are dealing with extreme heat as we head into the next coming days. Putting that into perspective, the two areas that we're keeping a close eye on, it's California. It's all throughout the West Coast, as well as our friends down in the South, too. Areas like Miami stretching all the way over into Texas. We have been battling extreme heat leading up into this 4th of July weekend, and it is continuing to stick around as we head into the coming days. Phoenix this afternoon is hitting 117 degrees. Last year around this time, we went about 20 days with that extreme heat, just holding on tight to those communities, and we're starting to see a similar trend now. Dallas this afternoon finally catching some relief in sight, sitting at 91 degrees. It was just 2 days ago we were talking about triple digits in that region, and down into Miami and areas like Tampa, it is a hot one out there. So let's take a look right behind me. What's going to happen as we head into the coming days? Well, these two heat domes are still sticking around for us, like I said, all throughout the South and all throughout the Southwest, too. As we head over into the Central Valley in California, we've been keeping a close eye on them because they've been dealing with fire weather conditions this whole week. And we continue to keep a close eye on areas like Texas and all the way over into Louisiana, too, where they're finally starting to see some relief in sight. This is issued by the Climate Prediction Center, showing the next 6 to 10 days we have above normal temperatures still lasting anywhere from the Maine all the way down to the tip of Miami. And for our friends off into the West Coast, too, we'll have more on this extreme heat coming up in a bit. For now, over to you, Reed.
Well, you believe this and hold us accountable as CBS News. Our Eye on America series, it is our heartbeat. We believe the best in us lies in our communities. and those of you who live in those communities who work together to solve problems. So here's one problem needing a fix. Property owners across the country face squatters, in some cases illegally taking over their homes and forcing what seems like never-ending legal battles. Well, now lawmakers are working together to pass laws to protect homeowners in these situations. That includes the state you're looking at right here, the state of Florida. In the first of our two-part Eye on America series, Carter Evans shows you how some homeowners are not waiting for the new laws to take effect.
When Jean, an 81-year-old grandma in Idaho, inherited a plot of land in Los Angeles, she thought her financial worries were over until squatters claimed the property.
The sheriff won't go there and cut the locks for you.
No, they're not allowed to. The squatters have rights.
At least 20 people in a dozen RVs took control and barred her from her own land. Neighbors told us people inside were armed, and they weren't happy to see us.
You think if there were some murderers in here, they would enjoy you coming up to the crack and looking through the camera?
Who has more rights here, you, the property owner, or the people living there illegally?
Oh, I have rights. I get to pay my property taxes and pay for liability insurance.
Over the last 3 years, she's spent her savings, about $100,000, to cover legal fees, taxes, and lost rent. She finally found a buyer that will take the property with the squatters, but it's going to cost her
$800,000. I dropped the price.
$800,000?
Yes, sir.
So you lost almost $1 million on this?
Yes, I have.
Squatters' rights go back to the British legal system. The idea to ensure abandoned or unused property can be put to good use by people who need it.
No comment.
But the good intentions of centuries-old law,
a couple accused of squatting and killing a woman inside her mother's apartment,
have created some modern-day nightmares.
These squatters have turned this $4.5 million Beverly Hills mansion into a party hub.
This is the front line, if you will, in the battle to keep squatters out of an abandoned property. This property's been vacant for 4 years. It's an eyesore in the community here.
The owner died during COVID, and when no family claimed it, squatters did.
See the broken windows there, the graffiti, and someone's been living in this.
It's been a horrible nightmare.
Terry Cortez lives next door and wants the city to tear it down.
I think the neighbors and I are very scared sometimes of what kind of people come up and people sometimes come in.
Since law enforcement can't do much and court battles can take years, others are now stepping in with different approaches.
It's not right to not pay your utilities or your rent.
I was about to move, too, until he turned off the lights.
Lando Thomas and Kimry Kotchik run a company called Squatter Squad.
What happened when the owner came to clean the place after the Airbnb ended?
The Airbnb guest refused to leave.
And that's it?
Yep, that's it. And Los Angeles says he can stay.
They break locks squatters install and put up cameras to monitor them 24/7. But so far, nothing has chased this squatter away.
The police's hands are tied. The sheriff's hands are tied.
Squatting is a problem for landlords reaching far beyond Southern California. According to a survey from the National Rental Home Council, cities in Texas, Georgia, and Florida have more squatters than any other metropolitan area. For Eye on America, I'm Carter Evans in Los Angeles.
Unless we talk about it first. That's it for us at CBS News 24/7. Thank you so much for watching. That's from me and our entire crew. Let's go live right now to Madison, Wisconsin, where we are awaiting President Joe Biden and a campaign rally on a big day ahead.